All right, everybody, welcome to the Otherppl podcast, a weekly program featuring in-depth conversations with today's leading writers. Happy Sunday. I'm Brad Listi, and I'm in Los Angeles. It's nice to be with you. I appreciate you listening. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and you can follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram. So today I'm going to be talking with my friend Jennifer Pastiloff. She has a new book out called Proof of Life, Let Go, Let Love, and Stop Looking for Permission to Live Your Life. It is available from Dutton, and it's one of these books that's kind of hard to categorize. It's part divorce memoir, it's part motherhood essay, it's part self-help book, it's part poetry collection. It is a hybrid book written by a hybrid person, as you will hear us discuss. Jen Pastiloff is writing in this book an account of her midlife and how she reclaimed her voice and her desire by radically changing her life, even though she feared it might kill her. It's a really meaningful and emotional and fascinating conversation. I think you're going to love it. It's a perfect conversation for a Sunday. So Jennifer Pastiloff talking with me about her life and her new book, Proof of Life, coming up in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Penguin Press, publisher of Where Are You Really From?, the new story collection by Elaine Shea Chow. This is a multi-genre collection that explores the limits and possibilities of storytelling. It features 6 singular stories and a novella. It is about human beings and all of their messy complexity. It's about the stories we tell ourselves, our treacherous desires, our self-deceptions, and our capacity for cruelty, both to ourselves and to others. Once again, the collection is called Where Are You Really From? By Elaine Shea Chow. It is the official September pick of the Otherppl book club. That is my book club. I think you should join my book club if you haven't done that yet. Just go to the show's website, www.otherppl.com, get a new book delivered to your door. Every 30 days, I interview book club authors on this program, so it makes for a very enriching and holistic literary experience. Once again, the book is called Where Are You Really From? The debut story collection by Elaine Shea Chow, available now from Penguin Press. A quick reminder before we get going that I have a weekly email newsletter. I would love it if you signed up over at bradlisti.substack.com. You will hear from me once a week. I will let you know about the latest episodes of this program. I also share a list of links to things that I have been reading and finding interesting. So it's pretty simple, it's user-friendly, and I hope you sign up over at bradlisti.substack.com. Also want to give a quick plug to my new company. It is called Deep Dive, and it is live. Deep Dive is a company that makes in-depth audio courses taught by leading experts, and the debut course is called How to Write a Novel. It's a natural extension of the work that I do here on this show and have done for the past 14 years. And How to Write a Novel features more than 50 hours of insight, inspiration, and instruction from nearly 4 dozen of today's most celebrated contemporary authors. People like Emily St. John Mandel, Melissa Broder, Stephen Graham Jones, Steve Almond, Vivi Ganeshananthan, Purachista Hakpour, Hannah Pittard, Lynn Steger Strong, Lydia Kiesling, Maya Binyam, Juliet Escoria, Matt Bell. The list goes on. It's an all-star lineup, and it's a wonderful course. It's a course for people who can't afford an MFA, who don't have the time or the resources. This course costs a tiny fraction of what an MFA would cost, and you get access to nearly 4 dozen of today's finest writers. So there's never been a writing course quite like this one. It's an incredible value, and I hope you'll check it out. The launch sale for Deep Dive, there's just a few days left. It ends on Friday, September 12th. You can save 25% on how to write a novel if you get the course before 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, September 12th. So what are you waiting for? Do it now before the sale ends, save 25%, and write your novel. You can check it out at www.deepdive.audio. Again, that's www.deepdive.audio. All right, so my guest once again is Jennifer Pastiloff. Her new book is called Proof of Life, and it is available from Dutton. Jennifer Pastiloff is a public speaker who leads retreats all over the world. She also does workshops that she teaches to thousands. She is the author of a popular Substack called Proof of Life, and she teaches creativity classes called Allow and workshops called Shame Loss. She has been featured on Good Morning America and Katie Couric, in New York Magazine, People Magazine, Health Magazine, and other media outlets for her authenticity and her unique voice. Jennifer is deaf. She reads lips. She mishears almost everything, but what she does hear is, according to her, usually much funnier. Jennifer's other book is called On Being Human. It was a national bestseller, and she lives in Southern California. I should add that this new book of hers, Proof of Life, also a national bestseller. So very pleased to welcome Jennifer Pastiloff back onto this program for a second time. We had a good talk, and I hope you enjoy it. This is me talking with Jennifer Pastiloff.
I so badly wanted to be thought of. When I was younger, I thought I was going to have a life in academia, be a poet, and then it didn't turn out that way. And so with On Being Human, I so badly wanted to be seen in a certain way or taken seriously or, just separated from that yoga Jen. And I always thought of you as I was intimidated, even before once I talked to you, no, but the idea of you, because you were of that world with these writers and you yourself. And then after On Being Human, because I was adamant, this can't be self-help, and it wasn't. And after I thought, I wish it would have. Who cares what category something is in, as long as the book gets in people's hands? And I've gotten more and more, embodied that more and more. And I love that question, like, what are you? Because we could say that to anybody. And I think so often we spend our lives trying to fit in a box. I don't know, Brad. I'm a fucking weirdo. I'm a human being. What are you?
Yeah.
But I kind of love it. And that you named it. I do think it's where we get in trouble a lot. It's like, where do I fit in? Who am I? What's my purpose? What kind of writer am I? And all the things. And I don't know. Became a painter a few years ago. I can't even draw a stick figure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you write books. I mean, you mentioned On Being Human. That was your first book. And then you've got Proof of Life out now, and you run workshops where, like, how would you describe the workshops that you run?
They've changed a lot. And a lot of that has to do with my confidence. And I never wanted to be a yoga teacher. I loved it. It was helping me with my depression. And it ended up being a way out of this restaurant that I worked at for 14 years. And it used to be a lot more yoga, but now they're all about creativity. And so in whatever form that takes. And so the in-person ones, it's a week or a weekend and this immersion. But ultimately, you know this, you know me, and you know my work now. All my life, I carried around this belief that I was a bad person, that I killed my father. I am bad. So what I did was I decided to turn that on its head. I am bad, and really alchemize it and play with it. And so the idea is like, make bad art, or as Anne Lamott would say, write a shitty first draft. But it's giving yourself permission just to be creative, and however that shows up. And for me, my default ends up being poetry a lot, but it's all about connection and creativity. And so they're different all the time. And when I do them online, it's incredible because I'm so adamant that it's not elitist or that it's for everyone. And so much magic ends up being created because people show up who would never have the balls, so to speak, to show up to another one. Because I say, if you feel like you're not going to fit in, it's for you. If you think you're a shitty writer, all the things that we tell ourselves. So I would describe my workshops as it might sound a bit corny or on the nose, but really permission slips, like just to be free and creative and find your way into creativity, whatever that means or looks like for you.
So creativity is the core.
Yeah. And connection. I mean, and really they go hand in hand. And connection, I think what I'm most proud of when I look are these friendships that got made. It's like nothing I've ever seen, but we bypass the bullshit, but it's connection with others, but also to yourself and to your own willingness to be a creative person, whether it's with poetry, with writing, with art, like the painting for me, with anything, but it's allowing for it. Because I think a lot of people, we think we're cooked by a certain age. Oh, I don't know how to do that, or I wouldn't, or I'm not good at that, and so we don't allow for it. And so it's like a lot of play. Just be willing to suck. So it's connection and creativity, those two things intertwined.
And getting people to be maybe more disinhibited.
100%. 100%. And it's not like be fearless. I always call bullshit on that because I don't think there is a thing. I think fearless people are sociopaths. The rest of us have fear, varying degrees of it, and we do it anyway, or we don't. But it's not about being fearless. And it's also not like, don't care what people think, but do your best not to let it stop you, not to let it inform you, make, live on your shoulder as you're writing or creating. It's like the editor or the inner asshole isn't invited during the creative act.
So I want to rewind because you mentioned losing your father and thinking that you were a bad person for much of your life into adulthood. This was kind of the narrative that you were nurturing to your own detriment for a long time. And I know we talked about this the last time you were on the show, but I think for people who might be coming in cold, it would be good to kind of give
I don't even remember, Brad. So let's,
Yeah, me neither. So can you just talk a little bit about losing your dad when you were 8? I think you were 8 years old.
I was. And my son, just turned, well, he's 9 now, but he turned 8 right before that. Everything broke up for me. I did not know that would happen, but basically I saw myself for the first time, which might sound weird, but if you've experienced childhood trauma, it won't.
Wait. And I want to interrupt because what you're saying is that when your son turned 8, which was the age that you lost your father, that was, and you write about this, it was very emotionally affecting.
To say the least. And I got sober. I'm 9 months sober now, almost 10. And you said, most of your life, you had this belief about yourself. And if I'm honest, which I'm going to be, I still do sometimes. I think of it like it's my default and I have to be very careful not to let that I'm a bad person or I am bad be the dominating voice or be the core belief. So when my son turned 8 was the first time I ever saw myself with tenderness or softness ever. Like when my father died, I was parentified. I was my dad's best friend. My mom, the way they treated me, like I came out of the womb like a 40-year-old Yiddish grandma and just always very serious and mature. And they treated me that way. And so the last words my dad smoked, bless his heart, that gave out on him 4 packs a day of Cools. That is bananas. I flushed them down the toilet and I thought I was being cute. And he, unbeknownst to me, he was dying, but he was like, you're being bad and making me not feel good. And I said, you always break your promises. I hate you. And those are the last words. He died that night. And the next day, and I write about this a lot, this image. My mom was a health food nut, so we were never had donuts. I walked in the kitchen, there were Dunkin' donut boxes everywhere. So donuts equal death. I knew. Donuts everywhere. And they, I think it was my Aunt Gwen said, your dad died. And I said, I don't care. And I just clenched my jaw and I chanted, be strong, be strong, be strong. And I shoved that back down and I knew I'm bad. I did it. It was my fault. First of all, he said it. He said, you're being bad. And then I say, I hate you. And he dies. Well, I'm 8 and I never dealt with it. That was just fact. But that is when I began disassociating. So, and then enter drinking, anorexia, all the things, but I never grieved. I was like, I don't care. So when I saw my son turn 8, when I there was times I had to look away from him. I couldn't be with, like, I mean, he's like a baby. He's little. That was me. The compassion, and then shame came up. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm so pathetic. I'm dealing with this now. This is so old. And that's an old narrative. Like, I should be over this by now. But the truth is, I never ever dealt with it or metabolized it or any of it. And I got really clear I wasn't going to cut my time short like my dad did. And, my dad was drugs. It was uppers and downers, and me with drinking, but same. And so, yeah, the I am bad was it wasn't even a belief. It was in me. It was in my marrow,
Well, this book is just like you are. This book is more than one thing, like in my read of it. I read it as like a creative manifesto.
Oh, thank you.
I read it as a kind of spiritual book. And I guess you could, self-help or encouragement or how to deal with suffering. I mean, I don't know how to categorize it in that respect, but I feel like it does.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, it does those things. And then it's also a divorce memoir and a memoir of new love and motherhood. Like all of those things kind of rolled into one, because that's what you have been dealing with, or that's what you were dealing with as you were kind of working on this book.
Yeah. I so value you and appreciate you. I want you to know that. And, how I was talking earlier about being intimidated by you back in the day, but really, I treasure how you look at things and how you look at the world and the way you take it in. And I feel very seen. So thank you. Really, thank you. It means everything. And that's, I think, what we all want in life, I think. I mean, I can't speak for everyone.
Well, I mean, I think, I talk to writers, and I feel like writers go through all of the labor of writing a book and then putting it out into the world. And really, all you want is for somebody to read your book carefully and to take it in on its own terms. And that's natural. And I think it's especially the case when it is a book that is so deeply personal and so kind of transparent and open-hearted, but there's a lot of risk on the page, like you have a lot of creative courage and a willingness to kind of show like all the different parts of yourself and to kind of self-interrogate on the page. And,
you're going to make me cry, motherfucker.
Well, I'm just saying that you're self-interrogating on the page, and you are giving advice and encouragement, but then also kind of admitting, like, look, I haven't followed my own advice sometimes, and this is where I've failed, and this is where I've succeeded, and it's all of that stuff.
That's why. And by the way, sometimes people apologize when I say, "Oh, you're going to make me cry." I only have, I'm not a spring chicken. I only have been able to cry since July 2022. Because of what I shared earlier about like shoving it all down and the pain. It is the worst feeling not being able to cry. It really is awful. And so it's still foreign to me. It still feels sometimes like a little panic. My physiological response is to shut it down, but I'm so grateful when I'm able to be moved and tears or feel, because I really thought I was dead inside. One of the things about shame loss, something I talk about, it's not that you share everything, but it's that I don't hide in shame. So for a long time, I didn't talk about my ADHD, but right now, because I completely forgot what the fuck I was going to say, I'm going to bring it right up. I don't remember why I segued. I mean, I said you were going to make me cry, and then I forgot why.
Well, it's all it's all these things that the book is doing.
Oh, I know. I remember.
Okay, well, go ahead.
So Anne Lamott, first of all, bless you, Queen Anne, blurbing my book. Like, what a gift, right? But what she wrote on the cover, about sense of humor, to me, that was the greatest gift of all people. I respect her so much. But because it's a quote unquote self-help book, sense of humor and self-help are generally not synonymous. I feel like it is a wink to readers, like you're in good hands, because the minute anything that's quote unquote self-help gets precious or serious, self-serious, or like, I have all the answers. I want nothing to do with it. So when you brought up, you're willing to self-interrogate and you're willing to be like, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I mean, you didn't say that exactly, but yes, the gift she did with that. And that made me feel seen, but because I could never write a book, like even advice. I'm not even sure I offer advice. I just kind of am like, this worked for me. Maybe maybe don't try it, but I could never write a book being like, this is the way it is. This is how to get over your a parent dying, or this is how to be brave, Who am I to write something like that? Who is anyone really?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I had that thought. I think whenever I'm reading a book, I am in some ways kind of projecting myself onto it as a writer because I also write. And so I think about some of the like deep truths that I've internalized or that have moved me or just like really resonated, like felt true. And there is kind of an impulse to share those, right? It's very human to want to kind of like recycle's not quite the right word. Regurgitate might be a little too harsh, but you know what I'm saying? Like you want to kind of redistribute.
I do. I think I just got chills when you said it because I think you just hit the nail on the head when I was talking about connection. Isn't that what keeps us going as peoples? I got the chills because it's the most beautiful thing when we share. And I don't say that to be eye-rolly, but like really, it's almost like an epiphany or like a discovery. Like if you think of it like in like childhood or something, like, look what I discovered. And as we become adults, we do that less and less because I think it's what will they think, or we're not supposed to, or, all the shoulds. But if we become more playful, and I'm very playful now and silly and all these things because I wasn't as a child. If you only knew, people wouldn't believe. I literally cannot find photos of me smiling. I was so serious. And so now it's a bit of a reclaiming, but there's so much in adulthood that we stop ourselves from, but it's that impulse to look what I discovered. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And, just to kind of trace your formation as this hybrid artist, helper, teacher, like community builder, you had this rough childhood where you lost your father. You had this deep wound, this trauma that, you've been nursing for a long time. And, only recently, I think you said, really started to kind of deal with it in a way that has allowed you to like truly grieve.
Yeah.
You I guess go through your early life in Philadelphia.
Jersey. Over the bridge, but same, yeah.
And then you go to NYU for college. Is that right? For at least a bit?
More than a bit. Yeah. And then what happened was my boyfriend, my first love, broke up with me. And looking back, it's so obvious, but I had a breakdown and it was about my father. I never grieved. And I've always, anytime I've been broken up with, it is like, I want to die. It is that same, but I wanted to die. And my mom had moved back to California because we had moved here after my father died. Actually, when I was 9, we moved and then back again to Jersey. Nutty mom. And I decided to take a semester off college and I worked for my dean. I worked at NYU and he warned me. He said, he begged me not to do it. Oh, had I listened. And he said, don't go to LA. Every year you're there, you're going to lose an IQ point. And we're still friends, which is so funny. We had dinner maybe 2 years ago and I went, Steve, I got to report back to you. God damn it, you were right. But anyway, that semester off is still going on. And I had 1 year left. I was going to be a senior. And the summer job I got, lasted 14 years at the Newsroom Cafe. And I came to be with my mom. I just wanted a sense of safety, of like, comfort, as it were, I guess. But it was when Danny, my first love, broke up with me. And it was it was my father. I never had grieved, and I still didn't then. But so I never finished NYU. I had 1 year left.
And you came out here, started waiting tables, and like that's the way life goes, though. You start this thing, you're like, oh, this will be a summer job, and then
14 years.
14 years go by.
I mean, we talked about this before, but for On Being Human, and I bring this person up because you know him too, but Patton Oswalt, hi Patton, blurbed my last book, and it's because he was a regular at the newsroom for a bazillion years. Like he always sat at table 15 and lovely. And there's so many people I know from that era of my life now. It's such a funny colliding of worlds, but especially this place at that time. I worked at the time it was the height of like everyone went there. And because I worked there 5 days a week for 14 years, I mean, I hated myself during those years and I hated it. But in hindsight, I hold it so dear. So many things were learned there. So many relationships were nurtured, and what a wild time. But yeah.
So I'm going to say that being a waitress for that long, and especially kind of like in a high stakes environment, you got all these fancy people. It's not like you're just.
But it wasn't that restaurant. It was interesting because I don't know if you'd ever been there.
Oh yeah.
It was in my dream last night. Oh my God. Brad Listi. I dreamt that I was having an anxiety dream last night that they opened back up again. And guess this, it's called now the Henry, and that's the name of my partner. And they changed it back to the newsroom, and I was working there again. Like me now. I'd written 2 books, and I fell back asleep after Henry left this morning, and I woke up in a panic because I knew I was afraid I was oversleeping for you, and I was dreaming I was working at the newsroom. But it was like people would sit there all day on their computer. It wasn't a fancy place, but yes, fancy in quotes, people, like air quotes. Yes.
Yeah, but I think of what you do now, especially like leading workshops, and like there's a performative aspect to waiting tables that might have helped to train you. And I think that the standing up in front of people and speaking extemporaneously and dealing with people's needs, like I can see the through line from that to teaching yoga. I can see the teaching yoga, which is another kind of performative job, but also like a job that has something to do with healing and kind of meeting people in a place where they're kind of open to transformation or looking to kind of reset. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but you know what that space is like. And
also, I just did a post because I've been so remiss, and all of a sudden I'm like, I have a retreat October 2nd. Shit. But it's called The Reset. So I love that you just brought that up in Ojai. Yeah. See that little plug there? No, I'm kidding. But I love that you did use that word, because I call the retreat that, not by accident either. So yes.
But so you agree, though, that when you can look back with the benefit of hindsight, you can see how all these different things are connected.
But I think you're also forgetting, or maybe you're not. After my dad died and we moved to California, I started acting as a kid. I was in plays. I was even. And I find this to be foreshadowing to, like, interestingly, Debbie Millman, who I love, who's just like you, a master interviewer, opened her podcast interview with me with, is it true in 1988 you were a guest star on Punky Brewster? I was. And get this, at the time, my hearing loss has gotten progressively worse. So now I cannot hear anything without my hearing aids. So at the time, I probably had hearing loss, but it just wasn't so bad. I played like a campfire girl or Girl Scout. They called it something different. And it was like, the show always had like a lesson in it. And there was a girl named Maria, and we were making fun of her because she was deaf. Now, I was one of the girls making fun of her. What are the odds? You got to be shitting me. Come on. Like that's the only TV show I ever did. And I just look back on that like that's kind of uncanny.
But the acting was ultimately not the thing.
Well, no. And then when I accidentally dropped out of college and started working at the newsroom, I went back to acting classes, and I was like, I'm an actor. Let me tell you what I did. I waited at the host stand for someone to discover me. And I've talked about this in my TED Talk. I'm not joking when I say that either. I was waiting. And then it dawned on me many years later, I was really waiting for someone to love me or pick me. And then it dawned on me when Charlie turned 8, I was waiting for someone to give me permission to stop hating myself. And, but I mean, I never did anything about it. I was like, yeah, I'm an actor. And a lot of the people I waited on gave me opportunities. Like a lot of them were showrunners and whatever. And I remember I went on an audition for, I think it was for Mara Braca Keel for some, like one of her shows, like Girlfriends or something, literally as a waitress, the part. And I had to say like more coffee and I couldn't do it. I loved acting, and in no way did I ever really want to have it be my career. But that is in my background too. And I think there is something in what I do that combines all of it. But yes, and I want to say more than the performative, another P word is the people. I'm bad at almost everything, but I'm good with people. I'm good at peopling, even though people might think I'm an extrovert. I'm not, but I'm open, and I don't question why. I don't care why. I know I just am. And so that is the common thread, I think, more than the performative. It's like, people, connecting with people. I was a fantastic yoga teacher. I sucked at yoga, but I'm a good teacher,
So you talked about how you were a very serious kid in the wake of your father's death, and how like you don't have any pictures of yourself smiling.
Yeah.
And how you got into like midlife before you, I think, really firmly started to reckon with your own grief. And yet you have this openness, and I think you were evolving all the while. But I'm curious to know if you can point to a phase of your life where maybe you went from that very serious, very controlled, with your jaw clenched kid to being somebody who has this facility for opening up and then opening other people up as a result.
So I was always serious. Like even before my dad died, I've always had a sense of humor, and I thank my dead father for that. And he really was the funniest person. To this day, people will be like, Mel Pastiloff was the funniest, and he died in 1983. But my son has the same sensibility. Like it blows my mind the way he could pick up what you're putting down, and even like in a way that doesn't make sense that a child should understand. But so I've always had wit, like a sense of humor, wit, not like a silly, funny, but if that makes sense, a quick understanding. I think it was when I really started doing what I'm doing now, and over the last 15 years, it's really morphed from the yoga stuff. And earlier I mentioned confidence because I never wanted to be a yoga teacher, so I eventually sort of dropped the yoga, but not completely, because I believe that what I know to be true is that the more in our bodies we are, the less cerebral, the less guarded, the more vulnerable we can be. So I use yoga as a way in to get the people in the room, and then eventually kind of drop that. But the more I realized I started just, this is going to sound so trite, but being myself, the more people were drawn to me and started showing up instead of the opposite, which was my fear. And I just couldn't deny. I was like, okay. And so I kept looking at the evidence in front of me. I talk a lot about it. Like, what evidence are you looking for? Like, if you look for evidence that you suck, when I do, I find it. But I'm like, all right, I can't deny that this is what is so. And so the more willing I was just to be myself, I recognized that other people began to open up too. But I've always, even as a child, been someone who tends to put people at ease and make people feel comfortable. And I've always been a kind of person who, like, if I introduce you to someone, I start like sharing all the things I love about you. And like, I do this. It's just intuitive. I love it, and that's just a quality I have. I don't even know how to name that. So the openness isn't necessarily about like the grieving or anything like that in terms of connection. And I've been open with other people, just not with myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think like there's I have some variation of this where I feel like if I say the thing, or if I am really candid or like self-deprecating or whatever it might be, it can set people at ease and relax the room and maybe make people feel at liberty to do the same. And I think maybe part of that is a kind of generosity, but there's also, I think, a part of it that's my own anxiety. Like I have a very heightened sensitivity to people's feelings, and I want people to be at ease. And I really feel when people are withholding or closed down or anxious, and it's nice in a room. I mean, I don't always do this, but in certain contexts I will. Like, am I barking up the right tree? Is that part of the impulse for you?
Yeah. I mean, the coach in me wanted to come out suddenly and be like, you're so in your head, Brad, Listi. Because when you're like the analyzing, like, I think that's my anxiety. And it's kind of one of the things I talk about in the book a lot. Like, the reason why I think the whys are like, who cares? Part of it's like, who cares why? Because it's a beautiful quality. I do think it's a generosity. And I would argue that it's not like for me and for you, it's not something I have to think about. I just am. And that's sort of why I'm like, you're in your head. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, both of us have anxiety and both of us are very sensitive people, but it's natural for me. I don't have to like go, I don't have to pretend to be myself, or it's a gift, and it is a generosity. This word comes up a lot. People use about me, and I would say it's disarming. And I love that, because who wants someone that's armed? And the great irony, and I write about this in Proof of Life, is that I was a master at it and I was the most armored up. So I could like sit there. I work with all these women who've lost children. I mean, really, really great at facilitating all this, but with my own stuff, forget it. Like, and I really thought I was dead inside. So there was a sense I felt like such a huge fraud, but I just couldn't access my own stuff. But the generosity, yes. And yeah, some of it is anxiety too, because I, like you, also sense when someone's withholding, and I want them to feel relaxed and at ease and comfortable. But I think because we're sensitive people, and I think like the alternative is people who just don't give a shit. It's like, I don't care how you are.
But you also have like this courage to be really open. It's interesting how that courage and that openness and that uncommon candor is also a kind of shield. Like, you're making yourself so vulnerable, but like you said, you were also maybe using it as a way to avoid having to really confront your own inner stuff.
Damn, why you gotta call me out?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's not entirely uncommon for people to do that.
Yeah, and you say, I'm like, of course, why would I have a pen handy? You said quite a few things that I just love, like this phrase, uncommon candor. It's like, ooh, it's a good podcast title. But yeah, and there's something about, so my hearing loss lately has gotten a lot worse, and it's pretty depressing, and I don't need a baby violin, like, ooh, woe is me, but the other night I had people over. I wasn't feeling well, but also I do very poorly in groups. I hate it. I want to poke myself in the eyeballs, like going out to dinner in a group. I will say yes once in a while if I have to take one for the team, but even going to a restaurant in general. So like if we got together, I would be like, Brad, can we just go to your house? And I've gotten better about asking for what I need. But the other night I had people over, and I was sitting outside listening to this woman, Natalie, talk to me, and there's people talking. I couldn't hear like every other word maybe. So finally I excused myself to go look for Henry, which was a lie. And I started cleaning up in the kitchen, and I was grateful that nobody checked on me because I need that. The comfort of everyone in the background, like knowing they were there, made me feel good. What makes me feel terrible was like sitting there and feeling so lost and frustrated. And so I bring it up because when I'm the leader, quote unquote, or the facilitator, the teacher, there is a way I could be that I can't be like when I'm going out to dinner. First of all, in my workshops, I can walk all around. I get very close to people like a space invader because I have to read their lips. And generally that makes people feel really, really seen and heard, which is a gift, because if I was a typical hearing person, I wouldn't do that. But I wouldn't do that at a restaurant, or if I came to a class you were teaching, like get up. And so there's a freedom I have, and I'm in control, as it were, or even if that's an illusion. So there's like a remove in a way, right? And there's also, I'm open and I'm vulnerable, but to a point. I'm not the one like sitting on the mat having, you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it, except that even if it's false, but there's a sense of control that I have when I'm the facilitator rather than anything else.
I can understand that as the host of a show where.
Yeah. Can you? Yeah. I figured you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and I say whether it's true or not, because there's so many things I've done in my life, and I go, I know the idea of control, like even as I knew, like the eating disorder stuff and all of it, it's like, even though I knew I wasn't really in control, and it's such a cliche almost, but it still feels like it, a sense of control, even if it's not really like, but there is a sense of when you're the one driving the conversation, or when you can, like me, even being able to get up and walk around. Now, AA, right? Everyone's like, are you going to meetings? And I've gone to a couple. Here's the issue. It feels lovely. It feels like a hug. It feels like my retreats. Like I love it. I cannot hear for shit. And so this is what things sound like for me, listeners, most of the time. Jen, like a sock in a mouth, right? Technology's easier. It streams right into my hearing aids. So that's way better for me. One-on-one, easier. So in the AA meeting, I sit there. It's lovely. I can't hear. So I end up feeling disempowered, lost, frustrated, sad, a way that I don't think that's not the point of it, right? And so then it sounds like I'm making an excuse of like why I don't want to go. But then people go, well, they have them for deaf people, but I don't do ASL. I don't live in deaf culture. I don't, exist. So, I thought, if this was a retreat, the difference is, or a workshop, I walk around, I always have I call it a translator near me. I go, what'd they say? And there's a way that I can be, that I can get by. I get by in the world by that. And I can't do that all the time, and I wouldn't want to. So, I think we were just talking about the irony, right? The irony of the being so open and yet also being completely armored up.
Well, and I'm also listening to you and thinking about how resourceful you are and have been, and how you've kind of built this career for yourself that accommodates your hearing loss and makes use of all these different experiences that you've had. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing to me the way that people, or at least some people, are able to adapt and kind of find a way to make it work despite whatever like limitations.
It's what we do though, isn't it? Hopefully, but it's funny. In one breath, I'm like, oh, I feel so seen. And then another part of why I think this is making me cry is because I feel really bad about myself at the moment. And like, so thank you. And then there's other aspect of smoke and mirrors, which, by the way, I saw recently online. I thought someone said it's smoking mirrors, and I always thought it was smoke and mirrors. Which is it?
It's smoke and mirrors.
Okay, that's what I've been saying for years. Phew! I think about smoke and mirrors. How much things look a certain way, either because we read someone's book or we look on social media or whatever. And so all of that came up when you said that, just because, I was mentioning the retreat. This summer was hard. My book came out, and that was hard for a lot of reasons. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, it's September 4th. I have a retreat starting October 2nd. I haven't even mentioned it. I have to fill it. And there's so much hustle in what I do, and I'm really tired. And I don't say that as a pity party or anything, but I'm ready I give a lot away. I give a lot of scholarships away. I do my best to make things accessible. I can't do that so much in person, but I do. But what I really love is more like what I'm really good at is speaking gigs. And that's where I get paid really good money so that I could do more of the retreat stuff and not have to rely on that for my mortgage or whatever. But right now I am. So going back to the fact that I'm like, oh shit, I don't have to sell my stuff at this point, but I do have to get people to know about it and the endless and so there's part of me that, hearing you say all that, I'm like, yeah, but look at me. I'm still I still live with my ex, and I am really grateful in proof of life. I was going to write, the man I divorced because I thought, oh, by the time the book comes out, of course. And I'm glad I didn't write that because I'm not divorced yet. And why? Because I can't afford it. Why? Because I'll have to pay him. And so he lives here mostly. Every other week he leaves. I have this weird life. Who doesn't, right? But yes, I have built this career and all of these things. And yet I'm not sitting on a pile of money or even a tiny pile. So, that has nothing to do with anything, but it also does. We live in the real world. We live in the world. So there are realities, and I don't have any kind of backup. I don't come from money, and I don't when I waited tables, my friend used to always say there was blood on every dollar at the end of the night. And I feel that way. Everything I have is because of I've sat in a chair. It's my, myself has all the money I have comes from from that. There's no passive income. There's no, or, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a battle.
I think, yeah. And yet it's also, I'm so privileged. I'm not, I want to be careful not to sound oh, poor me. 'Cause it's not, but also the retreats and stuff are really hard for me. They're wonderful. They're magical. It fills me up. But let me tell you, a week of where the work I have to do to try to hear, and I do still miss a lot, and it is exhausting. It's hard. And so 2 a year is now what I do. So now it's I have to come up with other ways. I have to be resourceful, the word you used earlier. And it's a battle, and it's one I'm grateful, and I love that I get to do what I do. And also I'm ready for less hustle.
I feel that. And I think that, when a person is in a helping profession or some kind of listening, deep listening profession, I think of therapists. I think of what you do. I think maybe to a lesser extent what I do. It does take something out of you. It requires a kind of energy. And I can imagine being in person, trying to organize one of these events and then having people, like you say,
well, that's the organizing. So I have raging ADHD, and that's another reason I'm I haven't started to sell it. And so that's the part, the organizing part, but then also the emotional, what you're talking about, but it also, for me, at least, it fills me up. I mean, it gives me a high. Thank God for that, because I'm not drinking. But then add the actual exhaustion, working to hear the way I have to focus, because I also have to focus so much on mouths, lips, and, all of it. So yes.
Well, and, just for people who might be new to your work and these workshops, like you said earlier, briefly, you have people coming to your workshops who have lost children. Mm-hmm. You have people who are dealing with a variety, different kinds of traumas that are very raw and complicated.
But then I just have people who are everyone is up against something. I will never not believe that. And it's a spectrum, all of everything, right? And I'll tell you, it's the most joyful experience, even though it's oh, yikes, all these, no, it's not. Then there's, all sorts of people, but it does require, an expression that's perhaps you overused, but you to be really present.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine, like you say, it brings you this high, and I can imagine that because you're creating this space of kind of radical candor and healing, and people maybe feeling more free than they normally would. And then you're also really exerting. So it's like at the end of one of these retreats, you're both high and like, I've got to believe, like completely exhausted.
Yep. 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 And yeah. And I'm talking with you in a moment where, when I said earlier, I'm feeling bad about myself. It's like, and that's shame loss there. I've always found it easier. Maybe you relate to this, to say things like, well, recently I was in this depression, as opposed to I am depressed. Like to talk about it once it's over, because there's such a vulnerability in saying I'm in it for so many reasons. But shame loss is simply like, I won't hide in shame. So if the shame voice is like, oh, you better not say that, that's usually when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna share about this. But I had, obviously this wasn't my first book, because we talked about that. And I'm not delusional. I didn't think the book would make me money. That's like what, three people in the, a few people in the world, right? Like, no. But since I'm being human, what happened is I got a speaking agent and I started doing these things, and I was keynotes, and I'm like really fucking good at it. And I get paid great money. But, you get more of those gigs, the more well-known you are. That's just how it is. That's just life, right? So I was, okay, this next book, I want to, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, Lordy, I actually named it out loud. I'm like, I want to hit the New York Times bestseller list, not because of my ego. Sure, we all have an ego, but because then that will get me more speaking gigs. And I made that this like equation, and I named it and I said it out loud. And so when it didn't happen, the shame I felt, like I was in an Uber, wait for it. I was in an Uber 30 minutes out from going to do an event with Anne Lamott in San Francisco. Like it was too good, too perfect. And I'm in an Uber, and I felt like I wanted to die. I was so ashamed. Like, who do I think I am? I cannot believe I even thought I could do that. I want to hide. I want to die from shame. Then the other thing was, I thought, see, I invite people to really consider, how often are you looking around for your question mark, whatever it is. See, evidence. I'm always going to have to hustle. See. And I'm grateful that one thing I did know is my recovery time is quicker. So I got over it. I had about 2 hours maybe, and I'm very proud of that. But I made it a solid equation that NYT list equals more speaking gigs equals more, more ease. And so I did my best not to have like high expectations. In hindsight, I still did, but the deflation after the book. Now, this was way worse than retreats. Like the high I feel in retreats, the come down after is, I don't generally get depressed. It's exhausting, but it's like this grateful exhaustion. The come down after the book was brutal, because I just felt, I felt like it didn't even make a ripple. I just felt like, I don't even know. And I feel scared even saying any of this,
it's not uncommon at all to have that experience.
Yeah. And I feel like let down, and I feel really proud of the book, and like really, really proud. And I said that to someone recently. I think I was recording a podcast, and I go, oh yeah, the other day. And I go, it's really good. And I realized the audacity to say that. Now I don't think everyone who reads it will like it. I don't also need to know. I never read reviews. I don't want to, but I'm proud of it. And I want to get it in more hands. And like I always say, and I believe this to be true, the hardest part is not writing the book or getting it published. It's getting it in people's hands. And so, July, the book came out, and I did all the stuff, which, by the way, on my dime, I'm going to be very transparent about that. My team was like, no, you're just going to do podcasts. I was like, even on pub day? Yeah. Well, I'm actually like famous for connection, and that's what my thing is. So no, I'm gonna, and I did it all. And then August was just like crickets, nothing. And so the deflation, I don't even know, I don't have language for it, but the sadness, like there's a grief, all of it. And then I have to be careful with social media because I look and I see all, like some people, you know, who, you know, have a big spread in the New York Times, or they're going, you know, and it's it's like a catch-22. I can't figure it out. And, I know a lot of writers listen to this podcast, and I remember my agent, you know, it became a national bestseller right away. I'm really grateful, really grateful. And I know that's not small beans, but she kind of was like, New York Times, you have to sell thousands and thousands. And we hung up, and how do you do that? I mean, that's a really honest, like, question. Like, if you're not already famous and you're not really rich, and I'm neither of those things, you know, Brad, how do you do that?
No, I've been asking that. I mean, part of the reason why I do what I do is trying to figure out how books move. And there really is not a clean answer. And I think that even if you are famous, there are tons of celebrity memoirs that got these gigantic advances that then fell flat on their face when they went to publication. And then you'll have some debut novel by an unknown writer that'll just blow up, and nobody knows why. And if anybody did, they would be a cajillionaire. I mean,
yeah, but there's, you know, there's going back to the thing where telling Henry how I used to be intimidated by you, I think maybe that wasn't even that was the right word, but there was a sense that I really wanted to sit at the table. You know, I thought I was going to be a poet, and I really did. I thought I was going to live in Iowa and be a poet, and my life didn't turn out that way. So the fact that there's poems in my book, and it's like with a big 5 publisher, it's not, you know, I didn't like self-publish it, nothing wrong with that at all. But like that really for me was such a personal, like, yes. But there's still this part of me sometimes that's like, I want to sit at the table, you know? And like, yes, I want the books in people's hands, but I really did want what happens when your book does well. And I know this from my first book is that it's not that you make money from the book. It's the opportunities. It's the doors that it opens, you know? So I don't know. It's just a really interesting time to be talking to you because, well, I'm committed to being honest, and you're my friend aside from being the interview host, but it's, it feels good to be sitting across from you and really, really sense that you appreciated it in a moment where I feel like a bit like, what was the point?
Yeah, I get that. And I think that there's something so personal about putting a book out into the world, especially when it's as personal as this one. Like we haven't even gotten to all of the divorce stuff. Like there's a lot of very difficult personal stuff in this book.
Which I can't afford yet. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
Yeah. But just like the rupture of your marriage and trying to deal with motherhood through that and the financial aspects of it, and then falling in love kind of unexpectedly on top of it all. I mean, it's a big soup. And so that I think, you know, heightens maybe this effect of like, okay, I'm putting this thing out into the world, and there's so much labor that goes into writing a book. It's not something that you can just quickly toss off. Like you've got to grind your way through a book for years usually. And then you then have to find a publisher or you have to find an agent. Maybe you already have those things, but you go through the pre-publication process. You're trying to ramp up some kind of publicity effort. A lot of it is done on your own dime, as you said, and with your own labor on top of the labor that you put into writing the book.
I'd like to correct that. Everything was done on my own dime. I mean, I'm talking about and even I'm doing Chicago and Philly next week, everything. And you know, they say to me, we don't do that. And I know, but of course I know you do for some people, and they can't say that to me, but I know for a fact because some of my friends were like mortified that they're like, what? I don't pay for anything. I'm like, well, I know, but you know, yeah, all of it. So that I'd say that's the hardest part. You think it's the writing and all that, but it's like, and then the endless self-promotion, and people are like, you're so good at it. It's like, yeah, maybe, but do you really think, I mean, it's like, God have mercy. But if I have no choice. Well, that's a lie. I do. But if I want to get books in people's hands, which I do, then I'm going to have to keep getting on there and like self-promoting. And it's like, oh, barf in my mouth.
It's, the promoting of anything is so, I mean, I guess it's not challenging for some people. Some people love that part of it, but most writers I know struggle with the labor of promotion because you kind of have to be relentless about it.
Well, this is what it feels like. I wrote a book. Will you read it? Will you spend money on it and more money? Will you talk about it? Will you post? I mean, it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what you have to do. I mean, if you don't have a fancy publicist, I had a, beautiful in-house publicist. If you're with traditional publisher, you get an in-house one. But then a lot of people get, a fancy external one. I couldn't do any of that. And everything was about asking. And so many people, and I realized this over the years, I've watched it happen from when I worked at the newsroom, people who would look right through me, to then I got more well known and like suddenly people pay more attention. But there were so many people still that wouldn't open an email or pay any attention to me. And I went, oh, okay, that's right. Because I don't have enough currency, and I don't operate that way. And I'm so proud of that. But I came up against that a lot. I forget, you forget until you remember, oh, that's right. I'm not, and it's all the bottom line, dollar signs. Like I don't, but, all the asks, all of it, that's the part that I'd argue is the hardest.
Yeah, I agree. That part of it is something I struggle with. And, I think that what's so interesting is that you're the author of a book that's a national bestseller. You're running these retreats in Italy. People are showing up. You've got this great social media presence. I think to the outside observer, if they didn't know anything about you, they would look at you and be like, she's dominating. Like that's to you, you're like, oh my God. It's not.
That's why I'm really glad I tell you the truth. And I am, it's all relative because, sure, comparatively speaking and whatever. And look, I'm not interested in being famous or I don't need like a shit ton of money, but guess what? I've been clenching since I was 8 and I keep breaking my teeth. I'd like to be able to I'm 50 and I know a lot of people listening are like, girl, welcome to the club. But I don't have anything that I know a lot of like quote unquote typical adults have, like for like anything. You have a couple thousand in the bank and I'd like a little bit and I have a little boy and there's just certain like essentials, So, yes, I'm dominating in some ways, whatever that means. And I feel like there's like this voice in my head that's like, well, how dare you? Like you get to live this, well, we all get to be creative, but like, look at your life and the freedom. But again, like I'm still living with my ex and because we're in California, I would have to pay him and I don't have the money to do that. And it's wonderful because it's fine. It's amicable. We're roommates in a way, which is what we were when we were married. And we're still married. I mean, but it's a beautiful example of why we can't make up stories about people or go by what we see on social media or what we think. I'm hugely grateful that I got to publish a book and that it is a national bestseller and that, hell yeah. And also I'm willing to tell the truth.
Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, honestly, it's like the kind of conversation that I wish I had more often on this show. You would think that I would have had it a million times, but writers, especially when they're in like...
I think people are scared. I'm scared even as I'm saying it. I'm like, oh, so-and-so's going to get mad at me or whatever. And I think, well, oh, well. But I may be who I say I am.
Listen, it should be okay to just say what's happening. Like, right? I mean,
you say that again for the people in the back, why not? It should be okay to say what is happening, Yeah. Yeah. And it is. How about that? It is. How about that?
And it's hard as hell to be a writer in this world and to try to publish books and do this work and like get by. It's incredibly difficult. And
I don't have I mean, this is the thing. This is what's really interesting. The book's all over the house. My ex, he won't even pick it up, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't asked him, but he's not going to. I did not, and I hope you agree with me, throw him under the bus in any way. But I did tell the truth in it. Like, I'm the breadwinner, and I'm sure that there's things in it that like he would not love. But I did tell the truth. But even when I was with him, it was always just me. I don't know. There's very few people that can just be a writer, like write a book and like, that's it. Like live on that. Let's just talk about realities of writing, and so these other things I do, but even that, it's like peanuts, but most people, not most, I shouldn't say that. Some people have especially if they have two incomes or they have another job. I don't even have a college degree. That's the funniest part. I thought when I was feeling real sorry for myself a couple of weeks ago, it's like, I can't go become a teacher. I don't have a college degree. You know what I mean? It's just like, what am I going to
do? Yeah. I hear that. You just have to sort of make it up. And
that's what I do.
That's what I do. I'm in the same boat in a lot of ways. I think people who are creatives and people who work in journalism, people who work in publishing on the creative side, even like increasingly people who write for television. Like television used to be like the safe harbor for the writer, because you could make some money, right? And it was like you had healthcare.
Wait, you just blew my mind. I mean, I thought they were like the richest ever. You're telling me it's not that much money anymore?
Oh no, I think there are some people who are making a fortune doing it, and it can be like a quote unquote steady job. But I think increasingly it's becoming less so. That's what I've been hearing.
Because Hollywood. I mean, my partner is an actor, and so thank God I'm not in that world. But I have a lot of friends, and it's very slow. And so that, I think, also is why it's fewer and far between jobs but the kicker I realize is I wrote this book called Proof of Life, and the idea being that there's nothing I can show you, Brad, that's like, look, now aren't I more worthy? Look, I'm showing you this thing, or look how many followers I have. Look how much, there's nothing ever. I don't care who you are. I do care. But nothing, just you by virtue of you being you. That's it. You are your own proof of life. The irony of when I found out I did not hit the New York Times bestseller list, the shame and how bad I felt is that here I wrote the book. I wrote the book about like you not needing any proof. And I still realize, if I hit that, will you love me now? Will that be the proof? Can I sit at the table now? Is this going to finally be the thing? And like every time I think I'm done waiting, I catch myself doing it again, waiting to be picked, waiting to be, waiting for permission. And there's still a sense where it's like, even to get speaking gigs or all the things, like I'm waiting. So now it's like, well, I'm tired of waiting. Like I got to start generating it on my own. There's this endless sense of like waiting or wanting to be chosen or not even wanting, but like needing to be, right? Like, for example, we were talking about the writing job, the TV writing job. That's like, well, you have to get the job, right? But there's so much of like, I mean, that's really also the permission slip part, like really doing it without waiting for permission. Now, that has nothing to do with the money part of it, but I do think that needs to be said.
Yeah, if you're waiting for somebody to, especially in a creative field, if you're waiting for somebody to sort of bless you and tell you that it's time or that you've been chosen, like you might spend your whole life waiting. You probably will spend your whole life waiting. At some point, you've got to just take initiative. And
I did. I mean, with the poetry, I didn't think I got to. I truly didn't think I got to write poems. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. And then I was, I dropped out of school. Not only do I not have an MFA, I didn't have a college degree. So that's what I meant about the poems in there. I was like, well, fuck yeah, I'm a poet. And, but I literally I was waiting. I didn't think I got to. And I'm like, who am I waiting for? Like someone to be like, yes, you're allowed. Ain't going to happen. Or like, even if it does, you get to regardless. So there's so much though in our lives that's like waiting to be picked, and no matter what, and this again has nothing to do with money or anything, but no matter what, we are our own purple life. There's no writer that you have on your show or no person that I sit with or meet that is more valuable than another person. There's nothing you can show, no tangible thing that's like proof that you get to ... whatever, right? Or that you get to be happy, or that you get to exist, or that you're worthy, you know? And that needs to be remembered all the time.
Yeah, you just got to take your own best advice. If we could do that, we'd be in good shape, right?
I know, it's really hard, isn't it? And I think the willingness to be honest that we don't always do it, and that like how human we are, I think that's the most fallen lovable parts about us, you know?
Well, it's like so easy. Like by comparison, it can be so much easier to see these things in others and then be missing it in ourselves, right? Like, oh, I can totally see where this person is avoiding. And meanwhile, you know, I'm avoiding or.
Sure. And it's also like, you know, we can have the best intentions, whatever, fuck good intentions, right? But like, at the end of the day, you know, like I talk about these rituals in the book. Like I didn't do it today, but starting the day with like, may I remember, it always begins with may I remember. And it's how do I want to feel today? What do I want to remember? And I always have levity in it, you know, may I remember not to be an asshole to myself today and to other people, you know, and may I remember not to compare on the internet to myself to blah, 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 and end up feeling like shit. And then I'm laying in bed at the end of the night and I reflect on the day and I go, well, I'll be damned. I did the opposite of those things. It's like, well, now what, right? And it's the willingness, to do what you're doing right now, to laugh, to be able to go, all right, let ourselves off the hook, take a breath and begin again.
What else can you do?
Well, shut down and go, see, I suck. And there's a lot of I completely agree with you, but I think a really common trap to fall into is the setup of having the best intentions and then not following through with what we say we want to do or who we want to be or how we want to be. And then going like, what's the point now? Or shutting down or, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's like, what else are you going to do if you want to remain like
there you have
productive,
it.
You know, but if
there you have it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, I've always said we have two options in life and only two, albeit nuanced, keep going or shut down. And yeah, I want to keep getting the book in people's hands. I want to keep being creative. I want to keep on. And so I'll take my 15 minutes of feeling like, and whatever 15 minutes is, however much time, and then I will begin again. But, yeah, what else are you going to do if you want to be vulnerable, if you want to make art, if you want to create, I don't even want to say happy, but have a meaningful life or feel meaningful or be, you know.
Or set a proper example for your kids. Like you're a mom, I'm a dad. Like I don't have the option of shutting down. Like I can't be in the fetal position for long. I mean, everybody goes through their moments, but like I feel that like I'm just like, okay, I've got to be setting some kind of example of resilience, and I've got to be positive, and I've got to sort of walk the walk if that's what I want for them. Like if I'm just in like the, what do you call it? What's that movie? Get Out. What do they call it? The shadow world or the sunken place? Yeah. If I'm like,
the upside down.
Or the upside down or the sunken place. If I'm just staying there, you know, I feel like I'm maybe not like being the parent that I want to be. So it's like, well, that's a piece of it.
That's, you know, I really do say things to myself a lot. I think most of us do, but I do say, I have the courage to be who I say I am. And I really I call that in the morning because it's like, I want to. And I talk about this in the book. And I even talked about it with Charlie recently of why I left his daddy. That is why I left, because I walk around, you know, I have this quote became famous and a lot of people use it at funerals. That's not what it was intended for, but blessed. But it's, You've heard me say it. When I get to the end of my life and I ask one final, what have I done? Let my answer be, I've done love. And I've revised this since too, when I get to the end of this podcast interview, when I get, and that's why when you ask, like, what are you in the retreats and all, that's always the intention. One, expect to be delighted. And after it ends, I'm like, I don't know what we did this week, but we did love. And I don't mean making love. Get your minds out of the gutter. But what I realized in my marriage was I thought I was dead inside. I had no sex drive. I didn't have any connection. We were like roommates, but I got all of it everywhere else. I was good. But it dawned on me in a way that I couldn't avoid it anymore, that what I was modeling for my son was like, yes, I do love, and I'm all about connection. But what he is witnessing in our home, this is what I'm modeling. This is what I'm modeling a marriage is. On connection looks like love. He'd never seen us laughing together, ever, holding hands. He used to try since babyhood. He'd bring our hands and put them together. That breaks my heart when I think about it. He'd never seen us kissing, like all these things. And I'm modeling that. And so I'm like, you're such a, really, Jen? You're walking around like, may I have the courage to be who I say I am? And I thought, all right then. And I am modeling that to my son. And he's 9 now. And I explained that to him and he totally got it. And so I said to Charlie, you know how people, and have you ever heard, Charlie, how people say, stay together for the kids, which is what my ex's mother was very angry with me. And I said, well, I left for the kid. And he got it. And isn't that interesting? But it has to do with what you're talking about, modeling. I want to model who I say I am. I don't want to say one thing and then live something else, because I remember, like, kids, they watch us. It's not just what we say, it's who we are. And people who are listening, this isn't an invitation, if you don't have children, to be like, this does not pertain to me. This is about being a person, period. Like, may you have the courage to be who you say you are. And some days you're going to suck at it and fail at it. And the good news is, if you're breathing, you could begin again.
And you also, last thing I want to talk about, I mean, you've mentioned it before, but I think it bears repeating, is that as you were writing this book, I think you got sober.
I got sober in November, so it's not been a year yet. Yeah.
And, as you were leading workshops and doing this kind of healing work and community building, you were struggling maybe behind the scenes and in maybe kind of subtle ways with substance abuse.
Yeah, well, I would say not subtle. I mean, boy, this is so weird to talk about, because I'm about to go to Italy to lead my retreat, and I'm having a lot of pre-grief and a lot of feelings. I've never been there without wine, and I'm like grieving it already. And I'm like, why did I say it out loud? Maybe if I never said it, I could drink a little there. And then, so anyway, I had a breakdown when the book came out, which sounds really weird. July 8th, it came out. And that is because, and I was very confused. Like, it's supposed to be a happy time, quote unquote. God, I've said quote unquote so many times in this interview. But I realized, Brad, it was the first event or thing of my life that I've ever gone through where I wasn't either self-medicated or disassociating since I was 8. So it didn't dawn on me till the book that even before drinking, I started since I was 8. I just began. I never had been in my body for any sort of, and this was a big thing, the book. So I couldn't stop it was like I was scared. I was like, what's wrong with me? So yes, I would say struggling behind the scenes actually since I was 8. So I had always found a way. I started drinking in my early 20s, but see, and I'm saying this with a smirk. See, I never drank in the day. I mean, except in Italy, but like, and also I never occurred as drunk unless I did. And if I did, then I would like really, really like alcohol poisoning drunk. Most people were like, I've never even seen you drunk. And my friend recently pointed out, Dan, you've been so vigilant your whole life. I mean, I'm always like, I thought when my dad died, I had to become the man of the house. I was like that. I think I don't occur as drunk. And so no one even clocked it. But I drank every single night. And like the amount of alcohol, like it's like mind blowing. And yet I was so high functioning, but I always had this wasn't a new revelation. I just didn't want to ever talk about it because then like I end on being human with the words, now what? This is why I think the why or the reasons or knowing a thing isn't the end all be all. You think I didn't know? Of course I knew. But if I named it, then I'm going to be like, well, yeah, I have a drinking, my liver's no, then I have to stop or do something about it. Yes, I was, and the revelation I had very recently when I realized I still want to drink all the time, I have this feeling, it's not so much that, is that I like just sort of not being here, being only half here. And I have found a way to do that since I was 8. And so without drinking, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just here. And it's hard.
Yeah. It's like they call it raw dogging. I don't know if I love that term.
I did. I wrote that in the book. I was like, it's so gross, but yeah. And also the book was like done. It was locked. And I got sober and I went back and I'm like, they were so annoyed with me. I only got a little in about it, but I wanted to because it was important to me, but it was like done. They were like, oh, Jesus. I kept going over the deadline for it to come out on time. But because I did feel like a fraud. I stopped drinking in 2020. This is so crazy. After I met you the first time, I went to the hospital. I had gastritis and I've always had gallstone issues. And the gastroenterologist looked me in the eye and she was like, without shame. I mean, I didn't feel shame. She was so lovely, but she's like, you got to stop drinking, at least for 3 months and cut out an Advil. She's like, you've ruined the lining of your stomach. And so she asked, what do you drink? I said, red wine. Back then it was, and I did. I stopped for like a little while, but then I started again. But the way I was writing in the book was kind of like, I cut out all the parts of my drinking and I didn't quite say that I wrote, I did stop for a while, but I didn't acknowledge, as I'm writing this now, I have a glass full of tequila. So it felt really important to me to get it in there, and I realized what a fraud I felt like. But the crazy thing is she said, red wine is the worst. So somehow I decided when I did start again, I'm like, oh, I'll just drink bourbon. I'll just drink whiskey straight and tequila straight because it's not red wine. I mean, the justifications, I really, really, and I still am like, damn it, I said it out loud because maybe I can have just a little, but even in my mind, when I imagine it, like just 1 or 2 glasses, I cannot even in my imagination. I cannot then the image goes on and then I go back to my hotel or my room or whatever and I keep on. I can't imagine just 1 or 2. Notice I can't even say just 1. I'm like 1 or 2.
Well, and look, we're the same age. I'm 50. You say you just turned 50?
Yeah.
So what's the cost benefit? Like, what's the benefit? What are you going to get? I don't really drink anymore. And it's mostly just because what's the fucking point?
Well, that's what I ask myself now. And I used to try that when I would try this thing where people go, instead of, reaching for a drink, ask yourself, what do I really want? And I wouldn't do it because it's, again, having to be with the now what. I know because I want to drink. But now I do. I'm like, what? And Henry and I constantly point out, and he could drink. He stopped with me, but he's fine. He can have he'll order a Manhattan and I'll go get another one, baby. He's like, no, I'm good. And I'm so envious of that. How do you do that? But I wake up in the morning and I did not realize the anxiety and all of that stuff because I never didn't have it. I drank every day. If you asked me, when's the last time you didn't drink? I could not say, every night, even on antibiotics. And I would go, well, I'm having a hot dot. I mean, the ways that I justified it, but I drank every night and a lot. I wake up now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never regret not drinking the night before. But in the moment which is a thing that I struggle with, impulsivity. In the moment, it's like, I don't care. I want it now. Right, but what do I want? And I have to really sit with that. What is it right now that I want? Okay, I want. So the other night when I said I had people over and I couldn't hear, a lot of times, or at dinners, alcohol, I realized how much alcohol was helping with that. Helping me with not feel so lost and stupid and alone and all the things, right? But if we can really just be with like, what is it really? Is it going to make this better, more enjoyable? Do I wish, and maybe this wish will go away one day, that I could be someone that could just enjoy the wine tasting in Italy and have a little and that's it? Yeah, I do.
Sure. Yeah, that's normal. I mean, but I think that if you're aware of the fact that like 1 or 2 is never going to be enough, like you got to reckon with it. Right? I mean,
but I don't want to.
Right.
I don't know. So I think, look, I think telling the truth is important. I don't think we have to tell everyone everything. That's bullshit. We don't owe anyone anything. But I do think when shame starts to say, well, you shouldn't say that, they might think that. That's when, yeah, maybe this is worth something to share. So all of this ties into all of it, with the book, with all of it, with creativity. And I will tell you that it opens so much more creative space when you take away all the distractions. And boy, was it a distraction.
Yeah. The recovery time, the mental space, the energy that you spend. I've heard that before from people who get sober and are suddenly like incredibly creatively generative.
Yeah. And and like reading more and all of it. And the anxiety, at first it was like almost totally gone. And that blew my mind. Like what? And a lot of it came back with the whole book stuff. But, and we all know this. This isn't rocket science. Alcohol is a depressant and it exacerbates all this stuff. And yet it's just because I had no gauge, because I drank every single day, that I had nothing to compare it to. So the freedom that comes with it is priceless.
Well, it's great to talk with you. And congratulations on this book. You should be proud of it. You saw it through. I know how rocky it is publishing a book. I've been through it myself, but it's like one reader at a time. Your book finds one reader at a time, and there are going to be people who read it and who really benefit from it. And I'm sure you've been hearing from them. And I hope.
Yeah, I have.
I hope that you're able to take. I
am.
Like that to heart.
I am, and that's why I really want to acknowledge you. That's what I meant. It's like, you said something earlier. I don't know if you used the word careful reading. I think you did, but it's even beyond that. It's like, I'm always surprised when people even like, I don't know if you feel this way. I'm like, you read it? Even that you took the time and it means so much to me. It means so much to me. I don't take it for granted. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
It's not a small ask
to
get somebody to read your book.
No.
I mean, it takes some time.
And I hope we all remember that life isn't binary. So I am so grateful, and I can also be let down or frustrated, but I'm so grateful, and I don't take it for granted. It's not just one or the other.
Well, I love talking with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Enjoy your events on the East Coast. And I wish you well.
Likewise. And thank you for what you put in the world and and your writing and the way you listen and just who you are in the world, and you also are such a community builder, really, really beyond. And that's so delicious. So thank you, Brad.
All right, there we go. That was Jennifer Pastiloff talking with me about her life, her art, and her new book. It's called Proof of Life. Let go, let love, and stop looking for permission to live your life. It's available from Dutton, and you can find Jen on the internet. Her website is jenniferpastiloff.com. Track her down on social media. She's on Instagram. That's kind of her main social media presence, and she's also got a Substack called Proof of Life. So check that out and subscribe and get your hands on her new book. Again, it's called Proof of life. And it's out there now from Dutton. That was a very heartfelt conversation. Jen is just such a heart on her sleeve person. And it's refreshing to just talk to somebody who is that candid. So my thanks to Jen. My thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram. Sign up for my weekly newsletter over at bradlisti.substack.com. And if you love this program, if you had a good experience and you appreciate the work that I do, you can support it over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. If you want to join my book club or get an Otherppl t-shirt or an Otherppl sweatshirt, you can do all of that stuff at the show's official website, otherppl.com. If you want to check out my new company and get How to Write a Novel, the debut course from Deep Dive, you can do all of that at www.deepdive.audio. Don't forget that the launch sale ends on September 12th. So get that course before September 12th and you'll save 25%. www.deepdive.audio. Last but not least, if you have 2 minutes and you want to do me a quick favor, please give this show a rating wherever you listen. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is, rate it, review it. It helps the show in the algorithm and it helps it find new listeners. Okay, that does it for today. And I'll be back in just a couple of days on Tuesday with a brand new episode. But I am not yet prepared to tell you who the guest will be. So you're just going to have to wait and see. It's a cliffhanger today on the Otherppl Show. So stay tuned.